Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we learn practical tools based on scientific research and our own experience towards improving ourselves, living life to its fullest, and contributing to the best of our abilities to the world around us. I am Dr. Maria Grajdian, and I am a professor of media studies and anthropology at Hiroshima University. In my free time, I am doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities of the real world. In today's video, I talk about what happens when we must leave, and we do leave someone we love, as part of a series titled Things I Have Learned from My Kids. I have been creating this series of videos, Things I Have Learned from My Kids, by recollecting crucial learning moments from my interactions with my children, particularly with my daughter, for reasons which are still unclear to me throughout the years. The series, Things I Have Learned from My Kids, includes short videos about very pragmatic approaches to quotidian challenges and sadnesses seen from the perspective of my daughter. Of course, there is a specific amount of rationalization and clarification involved in scripting and shooting and editing the videos, but the main ideas are those shared with me by my kids when they were somewhere between 5 years old and 7 years old. But now, first things first, that is to disclaimers. The first disclaimer serves to strongly emphasize the fact that this YouTube channel, The School of Love, is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. Together, we can build up a better tomorrow for as many of us as possible. The second disclaimer relates to the fact that I am a trained musician and musicologist, not a psychologist, therapist, or counselor. The ideas I am sharing in my videos reflect my deep-going preoccupation with life, my own life and other people's lives, and express the results of my experiences, research, and for better or for worse, my failures and my recovery from those failures. Recovery which is still ongoing. The ideas expressed in the videos on this YouTube channel, named The School of Love, cannot and may not and must not replace the consultation with specialists in whichever areas of your life you might have questions or you might struggle with. If you are new to this channel, at this moment I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very much. This helps us not only with that mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the YouTube galaxy, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. And now back to today's topic, which is what happens when we must leave and we do leave someone we love. This is one experience, a sort of experience I had to do repeatedly in my life ever since I was, 12. It is in itself a very painful experience and very traumatic experience, particularly if we don't have someone to fall back onto, someone who can assure us that life goes on and that regardless of the next stage, there is always a tomorrow. And so when my daughter was 4 years old, she had to change a lot of kindergartens because I was moving all over the place. So for several years, I have lived a very nomadic life, and she took this nomadic life much better than I did. I was in a kind of constant state of anxiety and not really knowing how to organize all stuff, but she was very serene. She was very much at ease with herself, and she trusted fully that everything will be fine. And we had this kind of conversation several times, my daughter and myself. So what it is, that it feels so unsettling and sad about leaving people behind whom we actually really care about. And she gave me a couple of ideas. Back then, like as I said, she was 3, 4 years old, but she knew how to handle this kind of situations. And the first thing, one of the main ideas was that there are many reasons why we must leave, why people leave. This doesn't mean that we do not care, that we stop caring about those we leave behind. We simply have to accept that this is part of life. This is how life works. No, we go away, we come back, or maybe we do not come back, but life goes on. And she highlighted very strongly the idea that we have this common time we spend together, and we cherish those times spent together. What she didn't know back then, but I did know, that sometimes we have to leave people we love, but who are hurting us, people we care about, but who do not care about us. Sometimes have to make these very tough decisions in order to protect ourselves so that we can protect the others. But in her worldview, leaving someone doesn't mean we stop caring. Leaving simply means we follow the pathway of our own life and whatever might come ahead, and we keep memories of our people. We treasure the time spent together. We do not deny it. As I said, at that age, she didn't have any experiences in terms of complicated situations and complicated people. A third idea was that we keep in touch. My daughter belongs to the so-called Z generation. I hope I get it right. Who was born when technology already enabled us, made it possible for us to constantly keep in touch. Something my generation didn't have, and even less the previous generations. And she knew all the time that she can reach me anytime she needs. For a while, I had to live in a different country than she did, and but for a while, and I would travel constantly back and forth. And she knew she can reach me anytime. I'm there for her, regardless of how busy I am, and regardless how far I might be so physically separated from her. I'm always there for her, and she was very, very at ease with the fact that we can keep in touch, and we do keep in touch. Leaving people, so not seeing them every day or regularly anymore, doesn't mean that we forget them. They are just on a different dimension, and they are there. We are there for them, and they are there for us. Number 4 is that we do our best to meet again very soon and regularly. Of course, children are dependent on their parents' availability and resources, but this doesn't, as long as the willingness is there to meet again, there is no reason why people cannot meet again. Later on, like a couple of years later, she added an additional layer to this situation, meaning that, sometimes people say they want to meet, but they don't. Firstly, secondly, sometimes people simply do not want to meet. Sometimes people they really take it seriously, that out of sight, out of mind. For us as grown-ups, and particularly for someone like me who has led this nomadic life, and I have seen people leaving people I really cared about. I was also on the leaving part, leaving people behind, because, well, our lives led in different directions. And for me, once the circumstances under which I have met someone are finished, it has become quite natural that I do not really rely on meeting that person again. But for someone of, let's say, in childhood, for a child, this is not an option. If we really care about someone, we keep in touch, and they are there for us, and we are there for them. And finally, she said, before leaving, we hug each other very strongly and very for a long while, and we show each other that we care and that we love each other. So me living now in Japan now, so both of us living, or the three of us living in Japan nowadays, and Japan is a country where people do not show physical displays of affection. They don't and I think they don't show any sort of of signs of emotional or mental affection or intimacy. But we do it very very often. We hug each other, and we express our love and our affection in in considerate but constant manners. And I found it very interesting that even as a child, she knew that showing your affection, showing your vulnerability, showing that you care, it's something you do proactively. Later on, now she's 15. Later on, she started to experience the fact that not everybody is open to one's affection, one's expression of affection. She started to understand that some people are simply more closed off and prefer to be more discreet in their expression of affection. But nevertheless, she always says, depending on how someone responds to my affectionate gestures, this is a sign to understand that that person is suitable for me or that person is not suitable for me. And there are people who are more suitable and people who are less suitable. But being oneself and showing that you care is one way of finding out if someone is on the same wavelength as I am or not. And the sooner one finds out this, the better it is. Because later on, when one has already invested emotions and time and energy in a specific relationship, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be a friendship relationship. It can be a workplace interaction. Yeah? It is much more difficult to backtrack and to make some distance, because obviously the other person doesn't react in the same or in a similar manner, in a welcoming manner to one's affection. So what I wanted to share with this video is that maybe all of us, or many of us, or some of us can go back to that sense of serenity and calmness in showing our affection and showing that we care, so that we can serve as beacons of light and encourage others to show their vulnerability and their soft side as well. I am increasingly gaining the impression that people are closing off. And maybe this also is related to the fact that we live such long lives, and that it is quite difficult, if not for most of us impossible, to hang out with the same people and to keep the relationship throughout the decades. And this awareness, or this awareness that we might have to change the groups of friends, we might have to change and to exchange romantic relationships. This gives us a sense of loneliness and solitude, and somehow some sort of anxiety of the future. But for my part, I believe this is also what makes life so interesting and exciting. This challenges ahead of us, and it inspires us to face life and the future with courage, to look it in the face and say, well, you might be strong, but I'm stronger. You might be big, but I can face you. I'm not afraid. I'm looking forward for whatever might come in the future. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. It's maybe we can find the courage and to go back to that sense of serenity, which apparently we shared when we were children. I'm sure my daughter wasn't an exception. I'm sure she actually was part of the general rule that children can face life with courage and can have this ability to, instead of rationalizing fear and anxiety, to look it in the face and say, well, I can deal with you, so what's up, kid? What's up, guy? So thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I delivered some sort of insights, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you very soon again. Love and peace to you all.